everybody! I don't know how it is where you live, but here in New Zealand we're in the midst of quite a cost of living crisis. Spring is on the way, and at this time of the year I like to spruce up my wardrobe a little and take a look at what needs freshening up. Now, since every cent of my money is going towards groceries and horse food, I have to get creative and look to the past for inspiration. I have great admiration for the clever and thrifty women of World War II and how they were able to get by with so little. So for this video, I want to take a leaf out of their book and make do and mend my wardrobe like it's 1945. I hope you'll join me. First up, I'm going to make a start on my mending pile. This is it. There's a lot, so I know I won't be able to do it all in one go, but I'm going to get started. First up, I repaired a very neglected robe that had a ripped pocket, as well as detached belt loops that needed patching up. It also had a hole next to the pocket, but it was an easy fix. Here's the robe restored back to normal again. I sure am glad I can start wearing it again because it's oh so comfortable. Next, I reattached a button on a sweater. And then I repaired an absolutely massive rip on a shirt. Here's the final result. I think I did a solid job. Up next were two buttons on a robe. One came off and I could tell that the other very much wanted to. This was such a simple task that I really have no idea why I chose to put it off for so long. Another robe back in action. Then I went about sewing up a small tear on a dress. Being from the 1940s, this fabric isn't the strongest anymore, so this isn't the first time I've mended this dress, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Next, I tried to repair the front pleat of a skirt. This was one of my first ever sewing projects, which is why there are an embarrassing amount of raw seams. And on the subject of embarrassing, the stitching ended up looking quite uneven, so I had to put the skirt right back on the mending pile. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. My last effort was another ripped shirt. Though it looks like it's in bad shape, it was a simple and quick fix. I think it took around 2 minutes. And there we are. Time for the making do section. What have I got to work with? Actually, this is staged, as I have already had a look through my dresses and picked the ones that I want to change. And first of all we have this one. This is vintage from, I believe, the 60s or 70s. I'm not a big fan of it. I've worn it a couple of times, but I just don't like the way I look. The skirt is too long and the neckline is too high. It really accentuates my bust area and I don't like that in a dress. It just isn't a flattering cut on me. And don't get me wrong, I love the colour and I love the fabric, so I want to keep it and I want to try something different with it and see how I can change it so I like it a bit better. And I do have a couple of ideas already. Time for a little story, and I promise this relates to my dress project. Many years ago, when I was a child, my primary school put on a cat-themed play, sort of a rip-off of Cats, and my dad made my costume for me, which was fake fur, and it was a little vest and some leg warmers sort of things for my arms and for my legs. Believe it or not, a couple of days ago I was going through some storage boxes and I still have the costume. Doesn't quite fit my arm anymore, but do you know what this looks like? A nifty fur muff. And the vest, it also doesn't fit me. I'm not going to show you, but it doesn't fit me, trust me. But I have this wonderful fake fur fabric to make something of. And I thought of the blue dress, and so many ideas are going through my head right now. I definitely want to use the leg warmer, arm warmer, as a fur muff, and the vest I want to turn into something else. Definitely something for my head, and then something in this area to distract from the unflattering cut of the dress. And this is my ideas reference. So let's see what we can make. This is such a wonderful, lovely fabric. Okay. And I'm a little bit afraid to cut into it just in case it frays. So I'm going to start by shortening the blue dress first. To make sure I cut the dress to the correct length, I hung a 1940s dress in front of it as a guide. Oh no. I did it! I think I did a terrible job. Ha! But I also have an idea. Right. Here. Fur. Before I could go ahead with all my ideas, I had to first hem the dress. Now, I'm not sure if it was the fabric being too thick, me making the hem too small, a bit of both, or something else entirely. But as I hand-stitched the hem, I noticed it was looking rather bulky, so I know, sue me, machine-stitched it instead to flatten it. Is that not such a lovely match? I really like that. Time for the fun part, customizing the fur vest. I first removed the button and then undid the seams that connected the bodice front and back. Even after all these years, the stitches did not want to budge, so I really had to pull them apart and cut them with scissors. When it came to styling the fake fur, however, I couldn't for the life of me figure out where to put it. So I let it be and decided to embark on my next making do project. Something I have always wanted in my wardrobe are a crowd of house dresses. So dresses that I can wear around the house and do chores in and get dirty and all of that. And at the moment I have two dresses that are in a bit of an unfortunate state, so their public parading days are over. And I'd like to turn those dresses into house dresses. Dress number 1, I believe, is from the 1950s. And looks to be handmade by its original owner. It's gorgeous, but is unfortunately covered in yellow stains that refuse to come out, so I have barely worn it. Dress number 2 is the same situation, though because it's white, the yellow stains are a lot more visible. Since it's presumably also from the 50s, and I found it in the same charity shop as dress number 1, I can't help but wonder if both dresses belong to the same person who maybe didn't have the most refined table manners. I love this dress, stains and all, so I'm not going to do much to it. I just want to make it a bit shorter, 1 for practicality's sake, and 2 to make it look a bit more 1940s rather than 1950s. But the other one, this white one with garish yellow stains, I want to do something I have never done before. I want to dye it a different colour. Also in my firing line was this cream coat that I never wear because, like my 2 aspiring house dresses, it's full of very visible stains that I have unsuccessfully been trying to remove over the past few years. To hide the stains, I wanted to dye it brown. But first, the white dress. I began by giving it a rinse, since apparently that makes fabric absorb colors more efficiently. Then I put some warm water in a bucket and added my dye. Turmeric, or is it pronounced turmeric? Which is said to produce a nice vibrant yellow color. I put in about 3 tablespoons. Then I chucked in the dress and mixed everything together well to make sure all of the fabric is evenly covered with the dye. I should have worn gloves for this, since my hand took on a yellow hue that made it look like I was suffering from a severe case of yellow fever, and took ages to wash off. Next up was the coat. I was a little worried I would ruin its beautiful lining, but ultimately took the risk. Just as with the dress, I gave it a rinse, prepared some warm water, and added my dye, which was coffee this time around. Yes, I did try some, and yes, it was delicious. Then it was time to stir and let time do its thing. A few hours later, I took the dress out of the bucket and rinsed it thoroughly to get rid of any residue. See how yellow that is? I could not believe this actually worked. The last thing to do was hanging the dress up to drip dry outside. I of course did the same with the coat, but I never ended up filming that because unfortunately it stayed the same color. This dress, however, wow! It was looking amazing and I was absolutely blown away. Then it was time to shorten the purple dress, for which I used a grand total of 0 brain cells because I chopped off far too much. Once again, I was too trigger happy and I made it too short! It's a perfect length, but I didn't consider the actual, I would still have to hem it. But I can solve it. Just wait. Here's how I went about fixing my horrid mistake. First, I pinned the hem back onto the dress and sewed it on, the seam allowance automatically making the dress shorter. Then, I folded the bottom section in half, creating the new hemline. Since I seem to have cut the dress like a barbarian, it didn't look pretty all the way around, but I did come up with a creative way to take some focus away from my terrible craftsmanship. I used some lace to cover the stitching line, which also complemented the dress's collar. It was fun and relaxing to sew on, and I feel like the lace bordering the hem in a continuous line distracts well from the wonky section. Ready for the final reveal? Here is house dress number 1. I'm very happy with my efforts. And I'm glad I saved it in the end. And I really love how the lace looks. And despite the stains, I'm going to be wearing this around the house a lot from now on. But what do you think? Have I redeemed myself after that hem-cutting disaster? Let me know in the comments. And now the grand reveal of my next project. Here's how it went with the coat. Unfortunately, as I'm sure you can see, it hasn't changed color at all, and all the stains are still visible. So, back to the old drawing board, I suppose. House Dress 2 also caused some disappointment as, while drying, the once vibrant yellow faded into a lighter and slightly uneven shade. Although I was sad to lose that marvelous bright yellow color, I do have a fondness for pale yellow, and on the bright side, you can no longer see any of the stains. So there's that. I know it doesn't look like I intended it to look, but I still really like it. Success! Just not in the way I meant it to be. Time to head back to my blue dress project. I was still incredibly indecisive about how I wanted to style the front part of the bodice. Here's me trying out different variations and not liking any of them. One thing I did know is that I wanted the fur at the back to be short, so I started on that. I cut off a big piece of fabric and made a hem. Then I remembered that the blue dress has a zipper at the back, so I cut the back section in half, making sure to hem the edges for a neater appearance. The large piece I cut off would be put to good use later. Time to sew the fur onto the back of the dress. Although the fake fur was great fun to work with, I must say the little bits of fluff were getting absolutely everywhere at this point. Anyway, here's Icy sleeping. So this is where I'm at so far. And this is the front of the vest, as it is. Originally I had planned to shorten this and just kind of attach it like that, but it doesn't look very good. So I have a different idea of tucking in these parts and then, tucking it into the belt like this. Now that I'd sorted out what to do with the bodice, it was hat making time. Using the old hem of the blue dress, I estimated what size I wanted my hat to be. Then I used that to figure out how much fur I needed, and cut out a generous circle. Next I made a hem to hide any raw edges and hand sewed it into place. By this point, every centimeter of my sewing room was covered in the fake fur. The last step of this really very simple hat was to attach the base, the old piece of hem, to the fur top. Plus, of course, trying it on. I can't believe I made my own hat. I've sewn my hat together, and here it is. I'm so pleased with it, and I can't believe I actually made my own hat from scratch. The first of many, I hope. Now my entire ensemble is finished, although truthfully I haven't sewn this part to the bodice yet. It's kind of just tucked in, but that's how it's going to look like. Here she is. Anyway, time for the final outfit reveal. How I made over an ugly, boring dress into something I really love. Since I had 2 fur muffs, I planned to use the second as a collar accessory for Ice, but sadly it didn't work out. So, as it turns out, the second fur muff does not in fact fit on Icy, so we're going to go without it, and it can just be a spare. This outfit is definitely on the extravagant side, even for my standards, but I love it. Alright, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I hope I'll see you again in the next one. What are you doing?
Oh my god.